All right, so if there's one video that I could point anyone who emails me and asks me, how do I become a better hunter? How do I reflect on this last season and improve my hunting skill set? If I could direct them to any video, it would be this one. Now, it does not matter if you're interested in jiu-jitsu or martial arts at all for that matter. I believe that this framework is perfect, and it allowed me to be very concise and direct with how I think somebody should look at their progression through hunting, how to do it the most efficiently, how you should think about your journey. So without further ado, let's dive right into it.
What do you think separates a white belt hunter from a black belt hunter? Because you know each level in jiu-jitsu, you kind of have a good bearing of what each level is capable of. White, blue,
Yeah.
purple, brown, black, right? How would each hunter act at each level there if they were a white belt hunter, like a blue belt hunter, all the way to a black belt for you? This might be a fun exercise or stupid. I don't know.
Yeah. No, let's do it. I gotta forewarn you because I never thought about it like this, but I think it's a good metaphor. One thing about white belts is, particularly if they're men, they think they're actually gonna whip somebody's ass when they come in.
Right.
And it's like kind of comical. You know what I mean? Like from the rest of the gym, it's like this guy, he's going to get his ass handed to him for months before he beats anybody. In general, people are way more confident about how inherently good they are at or they're going to be at this, or how they're good at fighting or whatever. Hunters are the exact same way. There are a lot of guys that start in hunting and they think that for whatever reason, they're born inherently good at it. And it's just not true. I think the white belt journey in hunting and the white belt journey in jiu-jitsu is a big part of just like getting over that. Basically going through the progression of like, hey, I need to actually open up to the idea that I'm not just born inherently good at fighting. I'm not just inherently good at hunting. There might be little things that make me better personality-wise or whatever, physical. I mean, there could be all these different things, background that make me, maybe I have a little edge, but you go through this process of understanding how bad you suck at it, and there's value in that. And again, like, I don't mean it in an insulting way, but there are a lot of hunters that will never get out of white belt. There are guys who have been elk hunting for 30 years who are white belt elk hunters. I think I've taken some things that I really like about jiu-jitsu and tried to shift it to my business, and particularly the part of my business that's working with guys that want to get better at hunting, because it's hard. And the thing is there's like another analogy there. Maybe you can relate to this. Jiu-jitsu helped me learn about learning a lot in a very analytical way. And I noticed it in other things I learned as I grew up. I got my pilot's license at a very young age, and I got it very quickly. And it's not because I had some inherent psychological advantage, genetic advantage, or anything like that. It actually had to do with some very practical things that I didn't notice at the time. But in jiu-jitsu, I noticed it, and that's that the more you train, and then the more you're conscious about the training, and the quicker you are able to iterate on it, the better you will get at anything. And it's, I'm sure you can relate to this. I mean, how I started with jiu-jitsu is a good way to think about this. Like, I've been a purple belt now for 5 years, and in the last 3 years, I haven't really gotten better. I've maintained it. Why is that? It's because I haven't been doing those two things. I'm still going, but there's gaps in between when I go, and I haven't been really diligent about, hey, this is something I learned today. This is something I'm going to work on. The next time I do it, I'm going to iterate on this. And so I see that, and that's why I've been stagnant with it. And there's a lot of analogies in hunting, man, because I don't mean it to insult people. Time is not actually relevant. What's relevant is that you've compressed your learning. You've really thought about, I want to work on this, I want to work on that. And then it's hard from a practical standpoint, but compressing it, man, like doing a hunt and then a week later doing a hunt, that is so much more valuable than I hunted 5 days this year, and then a year and a half I hunted for 5 days. Yeah, I'm not saying everybody wants to do this with hunting, and I get that. I mean, some people just view it as a hobby, but if you want to get better at it, it doesn't work. And there's for sure an analogy there to probably all martial arts, not just jiu-jitsu, but my journey with jiu-jitsu kind of solidified that. All right, guys, in some of my content, you're gonna see that I've been using this chest holster from Invader Concepts. This is with my 10mm. I also use it with my Glock 19 and even a PMR 30. I'm gonna do a bunch of content here in the next couple months on that around bear defense. It should be interesting. It looks a little awkward to have your gun under your bino harness, but if you test out all the different variations, it is the best and you have it on you all the time. I do have a discount code. It's CliffG and it's for 10% off. Go check them out. There are a lot of hunters that will never get out of white belt because they don't ever get to the point. They may not have the right attitude about it. They may not literally get enough time
Reps.
to get to the point where they're just like, hey, okay, this and this, I'm learning, I'm progressing. But man, like this thing the book just opened up and there's a million things to learn. You know what I mean? And that's kind of like white belt, right? And sure, you get a little bit better at things as you go through that. And then I think probably where the metaphor stops on white belt is white belt. A lot of people drop out of jiu-jitsu. A lot of people don't drop out of hunting, but they drop out of learning about hunting. That's what I would say. Like they continue to hunt, but they drop out of the progression of, you know, of improving that skill set, if that makes sense. And I don't think that's not necessarily a bad thing. If you're going to be a hobby hunter and do it for shits and giggles once a year, I'm like, it's all good. I think there's a lot of added benefit to that too. But in terms of the progression, I think the metaphor kind of breaks down there a little bit because people stay in the activity, but they don't necessarily progress. And then I think, and then if we go to blue belt, you know, I would call it the same thing it is in jiu-jitsu, right? It's like you're starting to learn all the you know, the block and tackling stuff, right? Like really understanding the wind for hunting is a big one. Really understanding individual species that you're learning to hunt, iterating on that, certain topography. It could even be down to, hey, I'm going to hunt this wilderness and, you know, in this other wilderness area, and starting to learn these units and really kind of building up the skill set. And I think that takes a big chunk of time. And that's when I think a lot of guys get very analytical about it. And they're just, you know, they're e-scouting their asses off. They're every time they go hunting, they're questioning, you know, why did that happen? Why, you know, what could I have done different? All those sort of things. And there's that, you know, that part of the learning curve. And then I think as you get into purple belt, you know, I think it's kind of the same thing as in jiu-jitsu. You start to figure out your way of doing it, maybe a little bit. Like you kind of know, you know, generally you're not going to make mistakes. Like, you know, when the wind hits you on the back of your neck that you have to change. You can't, you know, when you're at that stage, there is no, oh, it'll be okay. Let's like keep doing the stock. It's like, I'm trying to think of what the analogy would be. I mean, the guy's got you in a guillotine choke and you're thinking like, I can, you know, he throws his hips on the inverse side and you think, I think I can tough it out. No, you can't tough it out. Like you have to solve the issue right now. That's like, you know, that's purple belts know that, and they're going to solve that issue right now because they know the basics, but they're starting to progress on how, you know, their style of hunting. And man, and I think the metaphor works great in the sense that there are great hunters. Like I'll guide with other guides. I just guided with a guy who's much younger than me, but has a lot of experience, and he hunts a lot different than me. But we're both effective in very different ways. And I would say that that's developed during that stage, right? You figure out how you want to hunt, what's effective for you, all those sort of things. You know, now brown belt, black belt, it's just a progression of probably that, you know, your style, how you want to approach things, and then just more and more reps on it and developing your own way of doing things. And then I guess like black belt level hunting, hunter or whatever you want to call it. Sounds kind of asinine, egotistical to say it that way, but yeah, just looking at the math, like I'm a black belt elk hunter, whatever you want to call it. Like, you know, it just is what it is. But I think that the metaphor continues in a sense as you know, you talk to black belt jiu-jitsu practitioners, almost none of them think they're the best, and none of them think that what they know how to do is the end. You know what I mean? I think that is the same, dude. It almost even more so, Chad. Like the more and more I hunt, the more places I go, the more people I hunt with, I realize like yes, I have a skill set. I have dedicated a huge chunk of my adult life to hunting for whatever reason. But like the the like depth of the skill set is astronomically beyond what I could ever consume in my whole lifetime. You know what I mean? And I think that's maybe the stage you get to, or you hopefully get to. Does that did I hit them all, dude?
Absolutely crushed it, man. Yeah, you're totally right. A lot of black belts, once they get their black belt, they just say, basically, it starts all over again. Because now you're
Right.
going down into the depth of things. Yeah.
Guys, biltong, okay? I have been obsessed with this stuff for 3 or 4 years. Ever since I got on a keto, carnivore, paleo-esque type of diet, I've had a hard time finding healthy snacks. Biltong is a great option, particularly the slabs that have this fat on the side. That's where your energy is if you're a fat burner like me. Super simple ingredients in this, guys. Literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ingredients. Pair that to your gas station jerky. A great snack in the backcountry or just day to day. Biltong Depot is a huge supporter of my content. Go to their website, biltongdepot.com. Use my code CliffGray, CLIFFGRAY at checkout for 10% off and to support this content. Thanks, guys. And maybe there's a jiu-jitsu analogy there too. There's little bitty weird tactics that a guy can pick up if he's seen the move just a couple times, right? Like he's seen it a couple times and then it'll be ingrained in his brain because it worked out real well one time. And then if that opportunity comes up again, he can snatch it, right? Because he knows like, oh, I know like, I haven't done this in 5 years, but I did it. And I know that this set is like these 3 variables, pop, 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 pop. I can do this move and it's going to work, right? The same thing happens in elk hunting. And I'll give you like an example, right? And unfortunately, it just comes through reps. But I was guiding 2 hunters this last week, and we had done kind of a spot and stock / still hunt setup in the morning, and I had mistimed it just a little bit. Like we were glassing this shoot, but I was still hunting around because of the wind changes. We were still hunting around. Really, by still hunting, I mean like walking every 500 yards, sitting down for 10 minutes and glassing. But there was a big grassy chute that's hidden, and the wind is always crappy there until you get a consistent thermal. So I was kind of waiting to get in there, and my hope was that when the wind changed, I could get in there, see the elk, because they'd still be out feeding. So I kind of had this whole master plan. I'd killed elk in there before, all that good stuff, right? So we come around the corner. I'm in the last stretch. The wind's good. I look up and the elk aren't there. So I'm thinking, well, maybe they just aren't in here, or maybe they already have went to bed, right? So we start working our way up in there just so I can look at the sign. Kind of the morning hunt's over, and I look. Here's the chute, and then right next to the chute, there's kind of a rocky outcropping, and then a big flat of timber. Where you kind of think they were gonna bed, right? So I get right on that rocky edge there, and I start looking, and it's smoking fresh elk sign, like within half hour or something. You know what I mean? So I'm like, all right, we were just behind them. Like we were just behind these elk, and we just didn't catch them in the open. It is what it is. But now I'm stuck there, kind of with my pants down in the wind, because now I'm sitting right next to their bedding area. There's a big swirl of wind like there is always where these elk choose to bed because of using it as a defensive mechanism. But we're kind of already in there. Like these elk are probably bedded 150 yards from us. In my mind, I'm thinking they're already up and gone. Like this is not an ideal situation, but that's probably what has occurred. So I decide, okay, hey, we're going to walk to the north here, through here. Hopefully we slip by these elk that are bedded. Probably not. Like we probably goofed this spot up, right? So we start moving along, and I know the topography enough to know that I got like 200 yards of timber, and then I got a giant meadow in front of me. Like I'm talking about a meadow that is 700 yards across, right? Giant flat plateau meadow. And I know this, and we start walking. We get about halfway through that timber, and I hear a bull kind of sniff, and I look over, and it's super thick timber, like all this downfall shit. And I just see antlers like trotting through the trees, right? Already moving. And you're not like, I mean, it is now they've got us for sure, right? So I immediately tell the guys, follow me. And I literally run behind this bull. Like he's going for the meadow. I know exactly where he's going. And I start running with him. And he's at a trot. I'm at a dead sprint, and he's crushing me, as you can imagine, because their stride's way bigger. And the guys I'm with, I know from their mannerisms, they're like, what has gotten into Cliff's brain? Because this is freaking insane. Well, they don't know that I have killed like probably half a dozen elk in my life since I was a little kid doing this. And I know when those bulls get to that open, they're going to get across it, but they're going to wonder what the hell is chasing them. And they're going to stop and turn around. And they every time they do it. You know what I mean? And so I haul ass out there. Unfortunately, I got pretty far ahead of the hunters that were with me. I like baseball slide in the meadow, and it wasn't just one bull, it was 3 bulls, and they're standing there at like 100 yards, just staring at me, just waiting to get shot. You know what I mean? And it's because they want to know what the hell is crashing through the timber behind us. We're not going to stop in the timber. No way in hell you're going to shoot them in the timber like that, because they're susceptible. You know what I mean? But when they get out in that wide open and they get some distance, they're going to want to see what is going on. And it's like they were there. And then, it was like a hard scenario for the guys. They didn't end up killing one, but it was very much an opportunity, right? So that whole thing, if I describe it on a YouTube video or talk to somebody, they're gonna be like, that makes no sense. I can't imagine ever executing on that. It sounds like a great way to run elk out of the country or whatever. Yeah, agreed. Other than the fact that I've done it, like I know the move and I know it works. You know what I mean? So maybe that kind of, I guess, like framework in my mind, like being a little open to anything. And if it works once, kind of ingraining my brain, like what are the variables that led up to that? And knowing that in the future I could do it again. Maybe that's a little unconventional way of looking at it.
Pattern recognition.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's a simpler way to put it.
I love that pattern recognition, combining it with elk behavior, because you know that they're going to be curious enough to. I mean, I would have never known that.
If you enjoyed this content, do me a huge favor. Subscribe on whatever platform you consume it on. Spotify, Apple, YouTube, whatever works for you guys. Everything else is on my website, pursuitwithcliff.com. Go there and it's going to be very apparent to you that I work my ass off just to not have a real job. All the hunts I guide, all the seminars I put on, all the unique experiences I offer, and the membership site, all the details are there.